So what is this digital competition bill that is in the 2024? It is still in the draft form actually. So it is not in the final form. It is still in the draft form. So this particular bill is actually in the seen in the news recently, and almost all of those big companies like Google, Amazon, etc. All those people are actually coming opposing it. So what is this particular draft bill and why they are actually opposing it? So this is the thing we have to understand right now. And this particular thing is actually being drafted on the guide on the sidelines of the European Union. For example, the European Union also has one particular bill like that, one particular law like that. So the Indian government is actually trying to emulate that. So just like our constitution, we actually borrowed every good thing from different parts of the world. So just like that, we just saw that there is a good law in Europe. So we are actually trying to implement or improvise that particular law in India, and that is why this thing is actually in the news. So what is the? It is actually the Ministry of Corporate Affairs which is actually introducing this particular bill. And what is the major objective or the aim of this particular bill is it is actually aiming to promote a level playing field. Why? Why there is a need for level playing field? Because there are a lot of different companies in India also, domestic companies also, right? But just look at these kind of major companies, for example, Google or an Amazon or Apple or a Microsoft. When it comes actually, they are big companies. They are the biggest companies in the entire world. So our domestic companies may not be able to compete with them. So for to have that equality or to level playing field, that is why we are actually bringing this thing called digital competitions bill, the draft of this bill. So what is this particular bill is actually suggesting is that it actually all the different enterprises, all the big companies, all the news aggregators, all the people or all the large companies will be included in this particular bill. One thing, and they are actually trying to give the fair competition in the digital space, definitely. And for example, the major thing which they are actually going to do thing is that they want to prevent something. This particular bill want to prevent something. What do they want to prevent? They want to prevent what is called as the self-preferencing their own services or using data gathered from one company to benefit another. For example, the Meta is a large group of companies or Alphabet, we can say. Google definitely comes within Alphabet, right? So Alphabet, inside Alphabet, we can say there is Google, there is Gmail is there is Google Map is there. So a lot of different Google products are actually coming inside the architecture of Alphabet. So we can say like that. So this particular law actually says that one data, which is one particular amount of data which an app is or a software is actually generating. For example, if Google is actually taking some of my data, that data cannot be simply be given to Gmail or a Google Maps, etc., etc. Why? Because that is actually giving preference to those particular apps. If there is another domestic software on the just competing with the Google Maps, it is not getting that data, right? Google Maps is simply freely getting those data from Google, etc. So that is actually not competitive. It is actually not promoting those domestic industries also, domestic softwares also. So there should be a proper playing field. That is the main thing. It definitely wants to prevent that self-preferencing their own applications or their own, so sister software, sister companies, etc. within the system. So that is the thing basically which is actually done by the particular bill, and to curb all those anti-competitive practices. And it is actually preemptive. That is, before the that exact particular event is going to happen, this particular bill has provisions to preempt and to prevent those particular actions before the company actually take the actions. Because once the action is actually taken by the company and then the Competition Commission of India intervenes, after the Google will be getting having a profit of around 500 billion rupees, and even if the Competition Commission of India charges them 10 billion fine, there is actually no use. They already got the income of 500 billion. They simply give the fine of 10 billion. Actually, that is enough. It is actually not a problem for them. So what we have to do, we have to prevent the action before the companies actually do it. So that is one important thing, that is preventing that self-preferencing actions. And the next thing is that they will definitely be charged, heavily penalties also. If the companies actually go forward with this particular thing, there will be heavy penalties also. So these are the things actually being said by the bill. And we have to also mention about a few of the things. For example, it actually this particular draft bill proposes a number of core digital services. For example, online search engines, for example, Google, and the video sharing platforms. You can quote the example of YouTube, and then social networking services such as Facebook, Twitter, etc. And then different web browsers. For example, there is Safari by Apple, or example, you can say the Google Chrome of Google. So all those things, all those entities, all those softwares actually come within the segment that is actually called the core digital services. However, some of those core digital services can be classified into systemically significant digital enterprises. So that is the next category. That is, certain enterprises can be designated as systemically significant digital enterprises from within those core digital services. So what do you mean by this particular thing is that this particular significant digital enterprises has got, they provide all the core digital services for sure, but they are actually in a very large level that their financial presence or their presence itself is actually very much significant in the Indian economy. So that much big they are, so then they can be classified as systemically significant digital enterprises. So all those Google, Amazon, all those things will be classified as SSDEs in India. And there are definitely a lot of different conditions also to classify those things as SSDs. For example, in the last 3 financial years, they have to get a high turnover of not less than 4,000 crores from India. So a lot of different conditions are there, which you don't have to worry about those. Just understand that some of those will be classified into SSDs. And we have to also keep in mind that regarding irrespective of those conditions, some of those companies can also be classified as SSDs when the Competition of Commission of India actually feels that okay, that company is actually very much significant, so that company has to be classified as SSD, even though it does not clarify or satisfy the conditions. That company can still be classified as SSD. That decision can be taken by Competition Commission of India. So that is one important thing. Even if that they think that it is significant, it can be classified like that. And this SSDs also have got a lot of different restrictions. That is, no self-preferencing tactics can be taken into account, and there will be a lot of different restrictions also. And they cannot restrict any third-party applications or from accessing their thing. So a lot of different restrictions are put on these particular softwares and all, and it is why those companies are actually resisting it. Why? Because if such restrictions are coming on, they cannot actually simply transfer the data from one app to the another app within the same company. Then it becomes more restrictive. Then automatically they'll have less revenue and all. And of course, the data is the new oil. The data has actually got a lot of different, enormous potential revenue generating options are there for any data. For example, if you are actually a diabetic, if you go for a diabetic a diagnostic clinic and you just diagnose yourself to be a diabetic person, which means that data has to be secure. What if that particular laboratory is actually selling that data to hospitals or to any insurance providers and all? The next day onwards, these insurance providers, these hospitals may actually contact you, telling that you have to get your insurance, we'll help you get your insurance. Or the hospital may call you that, okay, you have to come visit your insurance appointment. This appointment is done with your doctor. You have to come. So you are not going for the insurance. You are not going for the hospital. Still, these people are calling you. From where they are actually getting the data? From the laboratory, maybe. So these kind of things are actually happening, which means that your data is actually extremely valuable, and this data cannot be transferred so easily. So that is the basic objective of the Digital Competitions Bill.